Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MindShare Podcast. This show is sponsored by Kits Keep in Touch Systems, a two-time international award-winning marketing suite for sales professionals. REM Real Estate Magazine, Canada's premier monthly magazine for real estate professionals. And OREA, the Ontario Real Estate Association, Canada's largest provincial real estate association. You can learn more about all of our sponsors by visiting my site, mindshare101.com. And hey, while you're there, be sure to check out the details of our upcoming MindShare Mastermind taking place in Toronto, September 16th through the 18th, as well as download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle so you can build more mindshare to get more market share. Plus, learn more about our one-to-one coaching and keynote speaking. Today's episode is number 281. Since 1994, he and his team have been recognized locally, nationally, and internationally as a proven top performer for RE/MAX in the Maritimes, including being acknowledged with the RE/MAX Circle of Legends and Lifetime Achievement Award, as well as the RE/MAX Hall of Fame Award. He has been a guest speaker at several conferences, including a keynote speaker at the RE/MAX Netherlands Convention. Many of his clients are second or third-time home buyers and sellers, and he says what distinguishes he and his team within the Halifax real estate market and contributes to his team's ongoing success is their broad network of contacts throughout North America and worldwide, as well as in-depth market knowledge and insight into trends affecting his local area. Joining me on this episode of the MindShare Podcast is top producing realtor Thomas Bagogloo. Big T. Whoa, welcome to the MindShare Podcast, the crawdaddy. Everybody on audio right now, everybody listening on the audio right now cannot see what you're doing with those big claw hands.
Okay.
And they're probably thinking, what's he talking about, claw hands? But I think I should let everybody know, Thomas from the East Coast, Atlantic Canada, and lobsters are a big deal out there. So we've got the lobster claws on. How are you, pal?
Doing great. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I look forward.
Oh, I'm excited to have you here. I think it's been some time we've known each other, crossed paths many times over the years, and I think I know what value is going to come from today's episode for everybody. But we say everybody's looking for that secret sauce, that magic pill, the recipe, what's going to make me super successful. Well, we're going to do that today. Talk about your secret sauce over the past 30 years of what's helped you create success in real estate. But I guess I'd start off by asking, what do you see? What's going on out there? Is this flat out? Is this the worst real estate market, that you've seen in the past 30 years of being in the industry?
I can't say it's been the worst.
Okay.
I would say it's challenging, but it's similar to waves. You have the ebb and the flow. And right now, anything that goes up for an extended period of time cannot continue. It doesn't mean there's going to be a total collapse, but there's going to be a rebalancing. And you can have consistency on going up, but there has to be a pullback every so often. And that can be defined as every few years. It could be a 5-year cycle, could be an 8-year cycle, but there will be a moderation and a pullback. In short, the Maritimes has always been one of those sleepy markets that just trended upward very slowly. And what we found in the last 4 years, since 2020, during the pandemic, for example, prices in most regions throughout Canada have gone up between, call it 50% to 100% on the top end in many cases.
Wow.
So we're no different than that. And the lower the price range, the higher the percentage most likely that it's gone up in value. What happened is the Maritimes were always a destination of affordability and a wonderful lifestyle that many people absolutely would love to experience, but maybe have never created that opportunity. And with the increases in prices, people from the more affluent cities, whether it's Vancouver or Calgary or Toronto, to name a few, they were moving to Nova Scotia, especially during the pandemic, where you could work at home and things of that nature. That gave our market a boost, a necessary boost, because we were feeding off of 1%, 2%, 3%, 5% was a lot in any one year. I'm going over a span of 30 years speaking about too. So when we got the boost of 40 to 50 to 60% in 3 or 4 year span, it was, I say it respectfully, needed. Many markets, the bigger cities, whether it's Vancouver or Toronto, I'm not saying they didn't need it.
Mm-hmm.
They enjoyed gains for many, many decades, and when they pull back hard. When we pull back, it's like a slap in the face. It's nothing. When they pull back, it's like being in a boxing match. They get knocked out.
Yeah.
What are we doing right now? Like the condo market in Toronto is at a standstill for the most part. So we see a lot of positivity here because in Canada, relatively speaking, we're about 500,000 population. Not a huge city, but not a small city anymore. And we are now a destination of affordability in certain rights. Yes, inflation has made everything expensive, but you can still come here and buy a home for 500 to 700,000. In some cases, starting at the 400 range. Can't say that about a lot of major cities in Canada.
No, you can't at all. In fact, it's I was just having that conversation. I was leaving the gym this afternoon. I bumped into a client of ours, a colleague in the real estate industry, and what's going on out there. And we talked about the fact that he deals within the neighborhood where I live, and we talked about the values and whatnot. And he doesn't live far either. And I said, to buy my house right now would cost me double.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want to get double the house.
Yes.
Well, that means that the cost is much higher, and now it becomes unattainable for a lot of people. And right. Look, we know there was a lot of overspending that happened.
Yes.
A lot of people went out and did that over the past few years, and a lot of conversations I'm having coaching clients and a lot of folks out there around, and you mentioned challenges a moment ago, are around some of the challenges that are out there now around affordability. And we know that it is predicted with, the interest rates up that we probably this year or next year see a lot of defaults starting to come up in mortgages because people just cannot afford to renew at the rates that they're at. And I guess, do you guys see it the same way? Are you guys going through the same thing? Where do you think we're trending over this next 6 to 18 months in the industry?
So I take a bit of a optimistic yet realistic and pragmatic approach to looking forward.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in saying everything's going to be all right, instant success, just suck it up for a few months and everything will be fine. Here's the reality. We are in tough times,
right?
But it's not the first time we've been in tough times. But the part that can be concerning, for example, here in Halifax, and this is indicative in the rest of Canada as well. Prior to the pandemic, let's call it 2019, average salary here was $50-something thousand, and average purchase price was tight to 300. That's a 6-time ratio.
Wow. Yep.
6 times. Right now, average price is about $550, and the average income is just shy of $60,000. So the average income barely has moved, but the multiple to buy a home, we're now at a tenfold, close to a tenfold. So from that point of view, that is absolutely not sustainable. If you look at, but even though it's not sustainable, there are a lot of people that have moved to Canada with money. And some of those people are not able to buy yet because of the restrictions in the permanent residency. However, many people have been in the queue, if I can say it respectfully, waiting for those opportunities to get their permits and their exemptions to be able to purchase. So there will be a rebalancing between people that can't buy and new money that has the money to buy. There are many expensive places in the world, and Halifax is not the most expensive. So we can still be deemed affordable in the scheme of things. So looking at it from a foreclosure point of view, I was reading some articles over the last number of months, and basically from September of last year, 2023, and we'll use the year as September to September, until this September coming up, there's approximately, depending on the major banks, some are a little more, some are a little less, but the average is somewhere around 10% of all mortgages in Canada are coming due. That's not a huge issue. That's a tester. The second year, going to 2025, it will be somewhere in the neighborhood collectively of these 2 years, 30%. Now, moving forward to the juiciest year yet to come, which will be 2026, September, by that time frame, and these are not my opinions,
Mm-hmm.
these are facts
Mm-hmm.
that are going to roll out in the neighborhood of 60%
I
of
was
all
about
the
to say
Canadian
that. Yeah,
mortgages.
60%.
So the good news is, let's follow this, and I'll try to make it brief.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is, here's the not so good news. What we think is going to come in June, this is my opinion. What we think is going to come in June or September may not happen at all in terms of rate reductions here in Canada. And at best, we're going to be fortunate to see significant rate reductions, which I will define as at least 0.5% or more, by the end of the year. The United States is saying basically now they're hanging on a shoestring of hope that they'll even reduce them by December. So how are we going to buck the trend? It's happened before in Canada. It didn't work out very well. We can't buck Big Brother when it comes to the big economy. Okay, we're a small player. We follow the trends of the international market. Canada is not autonomous. Yes, we have a great banking system, but we follow the economic flow. So where do I think things are going? I would say what I thought was going to be a reprise maybe in June or September is going to be a delay. And whenever there's a delay, there's anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever there's anxiety, there's opportunity. There will be people that will pick up where people will fall off. So when somebody needs or wishes to sell and says, I'm no longer waiting for 2 more years, I'm retiring and going elsewhere, traveling, I want my money, they're going to cash out now. Maybe they might not get as much as they will in a year from now or 2 years from now, potentially, or 3 years, but that's okay, because a home is not an investment. It is a lifestyle. And if you happen to gain on a monetary level from your home, consider that an absolute bonus. But if you buy your home as an investment, it's not. An investment delivers dividends, delivers income.
Right.
Okay. It's not a true investment. You can use the general concept. I'm investing in my home. It costs me money. Well, guess what? To go on a vacation costs you money, but you never get your money back. But what a hell of an investment in memories with your family. So we have to look at it in perspective. This is a rebalancing. The only thing is, it's going to take a little bit longer. And some of the economic data, both in the United States and Canada, is not exactly slowing down to the extent that they thought and to the degree that they thought. I mean, you're watching marginal increases in inflation again, the Fed backpedaling, the central bank backpedaling. Back in December, the finance minister said basically to the banks, went on television, take it easy on the people. Take it easy.
Which they're not doing, because we're seeing tax increases across the board, and groceries are more expensive, and everything else is going. Like,
Precisely.
if I was to say, from an advice perspective, I guess what you're saying here is, one, your house is not necessarily that investment. Your house is a home. Look at it that way.
Yes.
But as you do have anybody, because we've got a lot of that right now, we've got a lot of, again, just literally as recently as an hour ago, a conversation with somebody who said, got the listings, but nothing's really moving. And my thing was, hey, money's more expensive to get right now. It's a lot tougher. You just talked about, income versus cost. We've seen it go up across the board. But again, arguably in some of the more major, larger centers, that variance is much greater. So we've got a lot of people on the fence. What would you say to people right now, either to people who are home buyers or potential home buyers that are on the fence, or even to colleagues of ours in the industry who've got buyers on the fence, people are on the fence about making a move? What would your advice be?
Okay. So I always believe in putting the client first. Okay. That should be the premise of all advice.
Love that. Absolutely.
Having said that, sometimes advice seems contrary to that. But if you look deeper at the meaning and the source of the advice and the intention, it may not appear as it is. So what I mean by that, buy now. Now that might sound like you're just trying to sell someone into something. And I'll share with you why. Home prices will steadily increase, I believe, over the next 5 to 10 years. And if you believe your home is your lifestyle, then why are you trying to time your lifestyle? Do you want to be in an apartment for 2 more years? Factor that rent in until the interest rates come down. Factor that rent in until the interest rates come down. And then factor in the increase in home prices, whether it's 5%, 10%, 20% over the next couple of years. I'm not here to say how much, but I believe it will go up. I believe we're in a landing or a holding pattern where every market individually, Toronto, Vancouver, Halifax, depending on its elasticity and how far it got stretched upward in price, will determine how fast and how hard it falls. So one thing you can guarantee yourself of is if you can afford to buy a home and a lifestyle that will give you the benefits that you need today for your family, it could be closer to schools, closer to work, near aging family members, do it now, because that home is a lifestyle. And I have yet to see somebody go on vacation, for example, and look for their money back. Where's my return? The return's not in the form of money. It's in the form of lifestyle. So in short, if you buy now with the intention of not flipping in 1 or 2 or 3 years, but hold for 5 or 7 years, a typical normal family holding pattern, then do so. And the interest rates will change and you can refinance along the way. And by the way, when the market was really slow in a buyer's market here in the Maritimes for many years, for a decade at a time, people made less money. And we all heard Vancouver, Toronto going up in price, which was wonderful. We were just tickety-boo, like barely moving. Did we have a heartbeat? Slap yourself. Are you awake? Market, wake up. I got in the market in 1994 at the tail end of the hangover of the recession.
I was going to say double-digit interest rates.
I sold tight to, in my first year, $100,000 in real estate commissions.
Actually, I got to ask you about that. I wanted to take you back to that one. I wanted to go back to the first year, like the first deal, because as we talk about what's going on with the market and we look at like where we're at today, and we look at your career so far, and you've achieved a lot. 30 years. Do you remember where the first deal came from and what you did to earn that deal specifically?
I do. It's interesting. All the coaching and the seminars that I've gone to, it comes back to one thing: the secret sauce in this business. There are derivatives. There are other ingredients. There is only one secret sauce in this business, and I'm going to give it to you.
Go for it.
Whatever you do, you have to master it. It's called build sustainable, sincere relationships. And that's it in a nutshell. And the only way you can do that, the only way, it comes from within. You have to want to do it. And when you want to do something, it's different from needing to do something, because you have an inherent and innate perseverance. That survival instinct to grow yourself and build yourself is natural. Get out there, build your relationships. So here's what I did. I was thrown a phone book. Back then, that's what they did.
A phone book?
Believe it or not, they existed. Yeah, we had the yellow pages and the white pages, and some were combined, right? So I said, really? This is what we're going to do, is it? Okay. How about I take a shift? I took a shift. I was on the first night. I swear to you, I picked up this call. I was so hungry. I ran with it. What did I do? I talked to them, mostly about not even real estate, life, because I didn't know the individual. Sold them a home. About a week and a half later, maybe 2 weeks, I said to myself, wow, I did a duty call. My boss said, you got to get out and knock on some doors. I said, really? Yep, knock on some doors. Oh, here's some flyers. Drop your business card and away you go. Guess what I did? Knocked on doors. Took me 3-4 days. I picked up a buy and a listing from it. I would never have believed it. I go back to my broker. He goes, this is incredible. So then he says, what else are you going to do now? He goes, why don't you go work on a for sale by owner? And I said to him, okay. So I drove around and I said, well, how am I going to maximize my time? The best for sale by owner is going to be a builder, a development. I went to Lawrencetown and I picked up this development. At the time, it was about 25 lots. Well, that, after going through the presentation, persevering, it took me months to get an interview. It took me months before they were ready because they were there in development.
Perseverance always the key word there.
Perseverance, timing, and patience,
Yep.
right? Which, by the way, is all part of following up, right? Consistency of follow-up. So build relationships and have the motivation, perseverance to have the consistency to follow up. I went after it. No was not even part of the equation. I was there. I did a lot of complimentary work, offered analysis. They said, hey, this young guy's piss and vinegar. Give him a chance. 6-7 years later, that was my business. During that period of time, I sold on average in the high 70s to the high 80s in terms of the number of sales per year. That was in my second, third, fourth year.
Wow.
So, and it just continued from there. So it was very typical to do type 2 80, just shy of 90 deals a year back then. Right. But it all came from perseverance, doing the tough things first. I got in a recession. I did the hard things, duty call. What am I going to say? Knock on doors, got lucky. You can call it luck.
Yeah.
And went out in the car. First of all, I don't believe in luck. I believe it's the culmination of circumstances through what you do and the energy that you put out that leads to an end result.
Mm-hmm. So I got to ask, because, here we are 30 years later, and we've seen a lot of different changes go on. But when we ask the question of, has the game of real estate changed all that much since that time? And again, referring more specifically in this particular one to the art of generating new opportunities. Obviously, you've got a team, and we'll talk to that shortly. But for yourself, for your team, has it really changed? Is it the same thing? We've got all this technology. Do we not need to do those things anymore?
People are people. People have not changed. The environment around them have changed. We are still made up of the same elements that make us tick. The same things that make us love, make us feel, make us hate, make us fear. We are still responsive from a physical point of view to elements in life, hot and cold, for example. To think that real estate has changed is a mistake. The rules might have changed and the tools might have changed, but the heartbeat, what makes this business evolve, the heart of real estate, which is relationships and building relationships and persevering and wanting to help people, that hasn't changed. The difference is, in the past, you get a sign call. Now you get an internet lead. Somebody emails you. In the past, somebody picked up the phone. Now they text you. See, it's different tools, different approaches, different mediums. But if you change with time, because you see change in life, on all aspects of life, is a core to your success. Those who change and embrace change on all levels, mind, body, and soul, which is inclusive of business, because it's your mind, body, and soul that will determine your success in business. As any elements change, you need to embrace that. So is real estate technically the same as 30 years ago? If you look at it overall, you could say no. But is the essence, the heartbeat of real estate the same? Absolutely. So you cannot do real estate with the same tools as before, because if you don't adopt those tools, text messages, emails, if you just said, I'm not using the internet, we didn't have the internet when I got into business. It was 10 years or something into it before internet even started to, blossom. And not only is it the internet, people hardly call you anymore. So you got to figure out, you've got to meet people in the space that they go to. So if their space is the internet, if their space is watching videos, if their space is going to be social media, more Instagram, less Facebook, or vice versa, or LinkedIn, you need to know the tools that will make your business, the game of real estate, the passion of real estate, evolve in a successful way.
Okay. And so here's the big question that comes out of that then is, how do you know what tool is right for what person? Like, let me, before we answer that, I would say, where's the majority of your business come from? People you know or people you don't know?
Currently or past?
Ooh,
That's a loaded question.
that is a loaded question.
I
I
can
guess, I
answer it.
guess, I guess I could I like generalize your business and say that?
Okay, certainly.
So if I
Certainly.
generalize 30 years of real estate, 30 years of success in this game, and I say to you, is it group one people I know or group two people you don't know?
Mhm.
Which one is driving more opportunity?
I'm going to answer it a little bit different, if I may,
Go for it,
because I
please.
believe an
I like
average
that.
doesn't tell you the essence. So I could
Okay.
say on average,
Yep.
but let's start here and end up there. So here's that here to here, the average is in the middle. Okay.
Okay.
So here's what happened. I got into real estate. I came back to town after being educated abroad and decided, let's do real estate. I had my reasons. So I get into real estate. The only thing is I didn't know anybody here anymore. All my
Right.
university went abroad. I didn't really connect with them anymore. I didn't really hardly know anyone here. Like I was in my early 20s trying to figure out. I got into real estate 25-ish, somewhere around there. So what did I do? I had to do the door knocking, like I said, basically go and find the for sale by owners, the duty calls. So my business started exclusively from people I did not know.
Okay. Fair.
But
Yep.
those people entered into my circle that I embraced, and they became my circle of influence. And they were the people that I would go to, and I would go to the birthday parties and different events and invite them out. And I did a lot of one-on-ones, get together with someone for lunch, coffee, have a beer, etc. That was my way of doing things. And if I had an opportunity to get more than one client together because they're like-minded, or I sold to 3 or 4 of their affiliated friends, we're doing a little get-together, whatever that might look like. But then as time evolved and as we nursed this incredible base of business and loyal clientele, we grew from there. Now, the majority of our business is from people that we do know, but we paid the price and the dues on perseverance. We focused, we executed, and we followed up with people. We had it in place. We built those people into a CRM. I learned that early in the game. First year in the business, I had a CRM. There are people 10 years in the business without a CRM, and I organized it. I had their birthdays, I had their anniversaries, you name it, and I had an administrator to help me with that.
Look, I understand the answer, and I understand the way you approach that answer. And in fact, when I visually look at it, I say, through the time that we've spent in the industry, okay, and for me, it's been 20 years professionally. As you're aware from my background, it's been probably my whole life based on just my family, my father owning a brokerage at one point. I have seen that it's that circle of influence that drives the business.
Mm-hmm.
The way you preface that was important, and I think valid to answer it properly for everybody, because we do get a lot of people that push back and say, well, I'm brand new to the country, I'm brand new to the area, I'm brand new, I don't know anybody. And again, great. So go out and meet people. Now, the one thing that I teach when we're talking about our coaching and we're looking at where is success coming from, which we know, again, the CRM is really where that nurture, that persistence, that follow-up will take place, because that's what's going to help us manage it all, nurture it all. It's what are we doing to feed that? So the way I've looked at it, Tom, is that, again, this is my R&D, okay, is that 70 to 90% of our business in this business will come from group number one, the people that know us, like us, and trust us.
Mm-hmm.
It is important every single day to go to meet somebody in group number two, to feed group number one. So you're taking two, you're moving them into one, and now you're doing all the things you're talking about.
Correct.
And now through that persistence and that follow-up and that communication, we're going to have people in the CRM, we're going to have somebody to follow up with, and we're going to learn what that channel or those channels are that they prefer to communicate across.
Correct.
None of that happens without what you said a moment ago about dealing with people, building relationships, and connecting. Because if you're not doing that and you're just sitting there waiting for leads to come through or waiting for something to happen, you're not going to achieve the level of success you want to achieve. Would you agree with that?
100%. Bang on.
Okay. Now, I remember many years ago, I'm sitting in my dad's office and this box shows up at the office mid-afternoon. We go to open this thing, and it was actually this big yeah, you already know where I'm going with this.
I do.
It was this big styrofoam cooler with live lobsters inside of it. Now, we opened it up and realized that, like, you sent it to us. And listen, I'll tell you this, is that ever since that day, yeah, with the lobsters, right? Ever since that day, anytime I think of you, I think of the lobsters you sent. I think of the fun times that we've had. I remember sitting at a restaurant overlooking the water out in Halifax with some other colleagues of ours having a nice evening once. You know, much the same though. I think of USC. I think of lobsters. I think of lobsters. I think of you. And people might be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought this guy sells real estate. And yes, to everybody who doesn't know him, he does. But I would say too that that's what we call building mindshare. And if you're watching this right now and you're actually watching us, not just listening to us, you'll see that over his left shoulder, he's got a lobster. He opened up the show. He was holding lobster claws. He just held up another lobster. I like the hat, right? Let me ask you this, and people might be going, what are you guys going on about? What am I missing over here? But I, again, talk about building mindshare. We talk about the branding, right? Like, how much do you have over there?
We're not finished yet. This is my barbecue.
Oh my God, man. But let me ask you this though. When did you realize that being the crawdaddy was actually making an impact on your colleagues, helping you build your network, and how would you advise our listeners to figure out what their thing could be? Like, no joke, people that don't know you,
yes,
people that might be introduced to you right now for the first time might be like, are you really, like, the lobster hat, the lobster claws, what's with this guy? But then anybody that does know you, and there's a lot of people that know you, would come back and be like, yeah, that's Tom. That's the big T. He's the best. He's the man. Like, and no joke, anytime I've seen you in a group of people love you. You're always having fun, professionally. I guess, when did you realize the crawdaddy was your thing? And then again, moreover, people listening right now, trying to, again, build the brand awareness, get themselves out there.
Mm-hmm.
How could they identify what their thing is?
So it was kind of, I stumbled upon it. It was a eureka. In the Greek language, they say a discovery, for example. Here's what happened. I was a couple years in the business and my broker said, look, this is Halifax. Times are tough, coming out of a recession was, 1994, 1995, 1996. And I said, with my business background, I said, well, if the market's not here to grab, then let me grab the market before it comes here. And one thing RE/MAX has given me the privilege of is really getting involved in conventions. I'm a convention guy. I love the conventions. I love meeting people. I love enjoying people. I went initially to learn. I want to learn that which maybe wasn't as prevalent here. I want to learn the innovations. I want to learn from the very progressive teams and agents that existed at the time. But I knew, who wanted to talk to a little guy from Halifax? Our market doesn't even hit the market. I mean, I'm surprised our market was on the map at that time. It was so
Stop,
bad.
pause for a second. Forgive me. Did everybody catch that? He's newer in the biz. He's identifying an opportunity. And then he's actually got some self-doubt around why anybody would want to talk to him. Sorry, keep going. I just want to put that out there because, again, this is the real stuff, right? This is the stuff that everybody goes, yeah, but. Well, we just served you up a yeah, but. Sorry, Tom, continue.
Thank you. So in going to the conventions, I said to myself, if I make genuine relationships, and with that, have some fun. People remember fun. They don't want to be around negativity. So I didn't really talk about our market being down or just going at a blip here and there. I focused on, if you're coming to Halifax, I want you to call us, right? And we're a big military town. So I knew I had an opportunity if I met agents from military relocation destinations, whether it's Ottawa, Petawawa, Victoria, etc., that would come this way. Well, interesting enough, when I got talking to people say, your name, Bagogloo, sorry, over here, Bagogloo. Well, that's Bagogloo, 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 what is Bagogloo? Well, I said to myself, and I remembered in marketing, if you can have a very identifiable aspect of you or your personality or something that people can relate to that's different, then with a name like this, if I advertise in any way, because there's just really our family here, it's not a common name. You won't find it anywhere else in Canada. So I figured with no one being able to pronounce this over time and people making fun of it and me endorsing the fun, well, I had a great time at the conferences. Instead of Bagogloo, I decided to call myself Halifax Lobster Daddy. Well, then I bought the domain, halifaxlobsterdaddy.com.ca. I got a few other halifaxlobster.com, etc. So with that, I said to myself, this is incredible. I went to a few conferences. People were really, I don't know if they felt sorry for me. I was from the Maritimes, poor guy, our market's big, poor guy, you're starving. Here, let me buy you a drink. Well, okay, maybe a second one too. I got 2 claws, eh? Don't keep one empty. Promise to keep it 5.0, eh? But
see, I'm laughing even harder because, like, been there, done that with you, have experienced it firsthand. It is all genuine and real.
And with that, I was able to build relationships. And, I said to myself, if I can come up with a name, and, you meet somebody at a conference, great person, and you just couldn't remember the first name, was that John or James, for example, Sue or Suzanne, you're meeting so many people. So I figured if I have the lobster as an identifiable, I mean, look at this cute little darling here, right? We got them back here, a whole family of lobsters. Then at the very least, we know we're not talking about Calgary, okay? We know we're not talking about Manitoba. We can debate where in the Maritimes if we're talking Canada. But man, I got you focused on the real East Coast. By the way, Toronto's not the East Coast.
No.
East. We are the real East, okay? Atlantic Canada. So anyway, to shorten this up, I identified with the lobster. I'm allowed to say that. I identified with the lobster.
You didn't say identified as the lobster, but I guess that wouldn't be far off these days anyways.
Why do you identify with the lobster? Well, listen, I'll tell you. I got 2 big claws, as you know, a large body and a hell of a tail. Okay, so I figure I can identify with a lobster. Okay, so I got out of my shell, no pun intended, and decided to turn this into a marketing thing. So I had the exhibition booths. I had the name halifaxlobsterdaddy.com. If you can't remember my name,
Lobster Daddy.
Remember that? Yep. Lobster Daddy. And with that, but you got to get out of your shell, sincerely. You have to make fun of yourself, right? I know a lot of people want to roll around in 3-piece suits and be cool and, all that. And that's great. That's their lifestyle. I get it. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. My lifestyle is different. It's not better. It's just very different.
Yep.
So people saw a different East Coast lifestyle and a different way to market yourself and not being shy about it and giving out postcards and T-shirts and all that stuff. And that created business over time to the extent that it's 30 to almost 35% consistently of our business every single year.
That's just from getting out there, networking, building up a recognizable brand, having fun with people, being genuinely who you are. And so I would add on to this to say, because you just said it, and I love the fact that you brought it up. If the 3-piece suit is your thing, then do your thing. That's okay. We're not saying it's wrong. We're not saying anything. There's nothing to that. Because I'm sure there's some people sitting here going, there's no way I would put a lobster hat on my head or lobster claws on. It's not who I am. Mm-hmm. And again, understand what Tom just told us. It's not what he's suggesting you do. What he's saying is figure out who you are and embrace that.
Yeah.
Right? Embrace that and leverage that. That's what people are going to get to know you for.
100%.
Now, Tom, with that, as we talk about the networking, we've talked about a lot of the heavy lifting that you've done over the years, from a door knock, a cold call, a phone book, seriously speaking, we're driving around for sale by owners, courting builders and trying to figure that part out. Turning this to marketing, okay, or expanding on the marketing conversation at this point here. We just talked kind of branding, talked about some communication channels. I think we've already kind of established that you believe the phone call is super important. Would I be correct in that? And if I said to you, was calling the contact list, what are your thoughts? What are your opinions on calling that list on a regular basis? What would you say to that?
You need to. And I'll use the word call generically. Well, it could
Okay.
be email, text, call, video. For example, in terms of marketing, well, I'll focus on communicating. We use all of those aspects and we use it really wholeheartedly. We use bomb like almost daily. Our agents use it to, if there's a birthday wish, like we'll send a customized birthday hello. Maybe we have our top 50 per agent that we're really nursing because they're more responsive and they've really done well for us. You try to spread the love, the communication as much as possible. And that's where, thankfully, and I have to say, I've been a loyal, supporter of Kits, the monthly newsletter, which you have. And I think that in particular nowadays is very, very relevant because everybody's getting all this digital snail mail. When you get a piece in the mail, what the heck? And it's very irregular in size. It's distinct. You got a little see-through plastic thing there to kind of peek in and go, whoa, and then you open it up and there's some great advertising. You can promote some properties. That's important. And that goes to our past client base on a regular basis every single month. To complement that in communicating, we will follow up for anniversaries, birthdays. We'll send out handwritten letters. Remember,
I was gonna say that handwritten, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
yep.
We're doing that now with our sphere of influence and including a special business card, etc. Letting them know we're thinking of them. We sign it. It's handwritten, and it's a Buffini concept. It's not original.
Mm-hmm.
Buffini got it somewhere else, but it's not important where it originated. What's important is that you utilize it. And that is really key. So videos, text messages, all of that's important to touch base. To answer your question directly, your database is your gold mine, and your gold mine needs to be protected. And the only way to protect it is through lots of love. It's an expression. You need to call, you need to touch base, you need to invite people, whether it's client events or one-on-ones or whatever it is, or be there to help them. If they need a carpenter or they need an electrician, let them know you're their go-to. Every time you call, it's not, do you want to buy or sell?
Right.
Every time you call, it should be, how are you doing? What can I do for you?
Love that. Great advice on that. Now, okay, let's flip that script there. And thank you for mentioning Kits. Obviously, not prompted there, but it moreover, what I'll take away from that, just that nobody here feels that that's a jaded response by myself or you, is to say the importance of sending a newsletter, the importance of nurturing the database, which you really emphasize there.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that has become a lost art for some reason. And I think it's because of the influx of technology where we feel we don't need to do as much of that stuff. Yet you talk to any top producing agent who's had longevity in this business, they will tell you that that's the gold mine. As you just said, that is the gold mine. And my words are always, you just got to mine that shit.
Yeah.
Right. What about the so as we talk about this transition and what some of these other options might be for marketing, what are your thoughts on the world of online lead generation? Does it work? Does it not work? Does it take too much time, too much money? Just, I guess, thoughts, opinions around that.
There's definitely a lot of mixed feelings on this topic, and I've really delved into it, talking to different top producers, different companies that are for the RE/MAX International Convention, other conventions. Here's a short version. They're not easy.
Okay.
But life is not easy. Fair. And it might be 5 or 10% of your business initially if you nurse it correctly. But that 5 or 10%, which we call the unknown business, becomes the known business when they transact. And every person that transacts might have a possibility of sending you 3 to 5 referrals over many, many years. So you are adding an annuity, if you will, to your database of financial success. Every individual that you add to your database, look at them as a human being that can offer you value, not an asset. They are not an asset. Treat them like
not a lead. They are people.
They are people, precisely. And people need interaction. People need to know that you care if you want them to care what you know. And we've all heard that before. Relationships and building relationships is not complicated. Be yourself, talk from your heart, and stop being that which you're not, and just execute from there. As far as the pay-per-clicks, they're more distant. Some say it's a 2% success. I think it can be a 5 to 6% success. So if you get 100 leads, if you do it on an average scale, you might get 2 deals out of it. Sure, you might have to follow up. They might not be ready for 18 months. What are you planning to get out of the business? Because when 18 months comes from now, wouldn't you like to have 8 to 10 more deals, or 80 to 100 more deals, depending on the size of your team and what you're doing? Because don't look at what you can close today, because you need to eat tomorrow. Start planting when you're eating. You know, at the end of the day, it's very similar to farming. There's a time to plant the seeds. There's a time to nourish. That's nourishment of your database. And then there's a time to reap the harvest, when they're ready to buy and sell. And I truly believe this. A lot of us, including myself, have made a lot of mistakes in perceiving internet leads and dealing with them. But I think with today's technologies and variety of websites, and the integration of the CRM with the website and the automation, whether it's KV Core or Sierra, or, there's all kinds of Follow-Up Boss is an integration system, but, there's many, Realty Geeks, and there's all kinds. There was Uber at one time, still is. I mean, many of these will offer different dynamics at different price points. Cheap is not better, and more expensive is not better. What works is what you feel comfortable with. Always analyze the different options and really put some time and effort into it, because they all sound like they can do the same thing right now, but behind the scenes, they're very different. Most people look like human beings. Notice I said most people look like human beings. A little lobster. But not all human beings are the same inside.
Right.
So it's the same concept. At the end of the day, some will argue there's no bad lead, there's only bad conversion. So now with the integration of AI, which we're utilizing, it allows us with the follow-up system to really make it more interactive. And then we complement and incorporate when we have time, and as we see the urgency of the requests being elevated. What it does, AI will buy you time, nurture to a certain extent when you're busy with that immediate client and can't get back right away, so that when you circle back in 1 or 2 or 3 hours or that evening, a message already went out and there would have been some degree of interaction. Well, I would say if that's too challenging, then you wouldn't want to go back to 1994 or any variation of that, because your alternative is to sit and do duty calls, which are still great, by the way.
Okay.
And it would be door knocking, which still works. And it would be for sale by owners, which still can work. But with each one of these systems, you have to identify what you're comfortable with. So just because you may not door knock right now, but I did in 1994, in 1996, for example, but now I'm feeding off of the treasures, the benefits, the seeds that have blossomed over the years, like the olive tree that gives you so many wonderful olives. Well, you had to nurture it at one time.
Right.
And then it provides you the fruit. So you can't expect everything all at once. You have to put your time in. You need to persevere, and you need to focus on relationships. And if you think the internet is tough to close a deal, you try doing those other 3 items. I'm not saying they're more difficult. Some will argue they're easier. That's fine. But internet leads, look, you're behind a screen. You analyze what they wish to do. You try to focus on paring them down. What you need to do is figure out what motivates people. And then you can figure out if those people are motivated. And then you can figure out how much time you're going to invest. Did you ever think that maybe some of the people, I'm not preaching, some of the people that are following up with internet leads really just don't know how to do it? Or they're just
there's going to be a massive portion of people that don't do it well. They don't persevere. They
Yeah.
don't move them into a system. They expect that it's going to be an immediate return because somebody came through. Like, let me ask you this. For anybody here, we talk about secret sauce, right? if they're looking going, I am either newer in the business or I've been in the biz 5 to 10 years. I'm not making as much money as I'd like to. So I'm really paying attention to my dollars. And I don't want to take away from the fact that we all pay attention to our dollars to some
Yeah.
degree. If you had to pay attention to marketing dollars and you didn't have all the money in the world to just spend on anything you wanted to spend on, where would you suggest that the focus needs to be on a regular in order to grow the business and again, become this consistent top producer?
Great question. That answer might change depending if you're just starting off or a few years in the business. But let me start with a few years in the business because we touched on how to start, right?
Right.
I look at it like physical fitness. You can relate to that. And look, I got a few pounds to lose, so I am no guru.
We all do. We all do.
But I learned this a long time ago. Hypocrisy is the homage that vice pays the virtue. So just because I may not do it all the time doesn't mean I don't know what I should do.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do know is the core of fitness, one of the most vital parts of the body you can actually exercise is your core, literally your core, the center. It creates a strong back, foundation, legs, everything. So if you want to be successful in training and really minimize pain and issues, it's developing the core. What is the core of our business? Our clients, our past clients.
Database.
And what we forget is we get so tied up in all this pay-per-click, which is essential at different stages of your business and affordability, but we forget the core. You sell to 20 clients this year, for example, or over 2 years or 6 months. And all of a sudden you're on to the next shiny new thing. You forgot about them. Now, that doesn't mean you call them every week and drive them nuts, but do you call them every year? Do you call them every 6 months? Are you sending them a newsletter? Are you sending them a video? What about their house anniversary if you don't want to get personal on their birth dates? You have to focus on the core. The core of real estate is your loyal and past clients, and never forget that. We as agents have often made mistakes, some of us, on going for the new and assuming the old will always be there.
So what about, and great points made, and I would say that again, to me, that's very much in line with everything I've learned from my time in this industry, is that's exactly that. I like the way you structured that too, about the core, right? That database being so again, quickly on this one, I'd say, do you include your realtor colleagues from coast to coast?
Yes.
Within that core?
Correct.
Okay.
See, it's very important to look at that core. Like in my case, part of my core was my contacts, my real estate colleagues across Canada. And to that point, like I said, over 30% of our business or in that neighborhood comes from repeat business or repeat business from other agents outside of our area. So that comes from the conventions, the lobster branding, personality, networking, embracing all that dynamics. So with that, what's important, if you're limited on marketing dollars and wanting to know what channels, make a video, expose yourself, let people know who you are, give them some tips and tricks, not all the hi, have I got a home to sell to you, right?
Yeah.
Yes, market your properties. No one's saying not do that. But if you go to a site and it's like property for sale, sold, property, like have something in there about landscaping. Have something in there that identifies you about your taste. What book did you read this month? Whatever that dynamic is. None of that costs money. When I say money, it's more of a time element. So if I said without money, minimal money, what can you do? Focus on your social media and embrace video as part of it, and use that to push out to the people that love you and are loyal to you. Focus on your core.
Love that. Love that. So now here, as we talk about focusing on the core and we talk about everything going on in a day, are you a scheduler? Or do you just kind of get up and sort of run and gun throughout your day, see where the day takes you? I mean, how do you stay organized and on top of everything? And moreover, I'd even say, are there any particular non-negotiables in your day, which if I had to guess before you answered that, I'd say you focus on your core most of the day.
There are non-negotiables. What I'll say is at different stages of your business, you'll have different ways of working, right? So I'm going to answer this at my stage of life right now.
Okay.
After being 30 years in the business, I run a team that I'm very proud of.
How many people on the team?
We are 7 people in total, 2 full-time administrators, myself, and 4 other agents. I have a few team partners that have they really have embraced change and help make our business grow and move in a direction that's more modernized. So we got the old-fashioned service and we got the modernization of technology all combined into one. So most of my team members, they run with the buyers. So I don't have to worry about being called in that last minute showing. So what I'll say is this. When it comes to scheduling, it's very important. As you're building your business and you're really into your business, you need to schedule. I was always a to-do list guy. I still am. I have different categories of to-do lists. I use different softwares for that. That's irrelevant. What's important, find a software, find something that you like, make it. In the old days, I was a big agenda book guy. Buy the agenda books at the end of the year, to get it for the new year with the December incorporated in it, in the January, and then carry it through. And what you didn't do today, you move on to tomorrow. Here's a couple essentials. You need to differentiate between what is important and what is not. Just because something will seem important to someone else, it may not be urgent to you. And what is urgent to you is not necessarily important to someone else. But you should have usually 2 or 3 main things that you absolutely need to get done that day. And no matter what comes into your life, within reason, it should not interfere with that success plan. So you can have all the little tasks, but don't do the tasks and miss the big picture. You need to get your 2 or 3 things done. What is that? Number 1, the non-negotiables. At least 5 or 10 calls to clients a day, past clients. Okay. And I don't count following up with a lead 2-3 times the same lead that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone who sold in the past, reach out. Okay. You do that, your business will change. But of course you need a business in order to do that. You need the core in order to do that. So we talked about the hard steps, right? Which is this, and that includes scheduling, being disciplined. Yep. You should have a routine. Some people say, I know agents that go, all right, between 10 and 11:30, that's my call time. If that works for you, great. I'm a bit more flexible. I'm a bit moving target. So I'll say, I got to make this happen, but it won't happen in the morning because of whatever. It's now going to be at 1 o'clock. But you got to be disciplined to actually follow up. If there's a carry forward, because there's no instant sauce to this, if there's a carry forward and something chaotic happened, it could be negotiations or otherwise, or somebody says, I need you to come out to this property. It's got to get done. You make it happen, but you move your other priorities to the next day. Don't say, because today I didn't do, therefore it moves off the list forever. No. So schedule within reason, but remember this, we are not 9 to 5. So an exact schedule doesn't always work for most people, but scheduling will work for most people. You want to be successful, you need to schedule it in. Might not look like the perfect schedule, but look at it. There is the calling that day. There is, I have to get this listing done today. Do not put off for tomorrow that which can be done today, especially if I can say, during your building stages of your business. Those are bad habits if you do. As you're a little more senior in the business, you can allow yourself a few more accommodations. You can maybe get up a little bit later, maybe shut down a little earlier, maybe move your schedule around a little bit more. Why? Because in life, the most valuable currency that you have is not money, it's your time. And you need to decide, it's like this, the scale of life. Time, money. When you're starting off, you trade your time for money. You have to pay your bills. But as you build, your time is yours. As you build your business and your money and putting that aside, you don't have to work the way you did. That's your privilege. Give back. Give back to your team. Give back to your community. Most importantly, give back to yourself, mind, body, and soul. Without that, you have no business. You have no health. You have no relationships.
Whew, deep. I love this. Because I was just going to ask you, I know you're a guy who likes to have fun. And
I love fun.
no, and listen, but nothing to shy away from there. right? It's important. And I love the spin you just put on that, because when I was going to say, refer to you as the big T, we know that that's when we're out there having a good time. And I know, again, from a focus of fun versus a focus on spending time working. And it really, Tom, I think you really did a wonderful job explaining that. So I was going to say to you, what would you say to anybody who just completely wrapped up in work all day because all they want to do is be an even bigger producer? If I come back to what you just shared, I would say, well, it depends on what stage of your career you're at. It
Right.
depends on that, much the same. There's still got to be that leverage of time so that you're not losing sight of who you are as a person, just being
Correct.
so stuck in trying to make money.
Correct. I think you can't let the money control you. And I realize some people have hardships, and we all have many of us have gone through hardships. Life wasn't easy. Okay.
Right.
And life is still not necessarily easy. It's about embracing challenges. I've yet to see a road to success without a few potholes behind that road. Okay. So it's what you do to get in front of it to create a smoother path. My destiny has never been to work like a dog all my life, but I am a very disciplined hard worker. When I was building the business, especially, and for my first 25 years, I was on point. Okay. Working really long hours, networking with a lot of people, traveling for business on a regular basis. And I still built a team. I still managed the team, and I still led the team. I realized over time there has to be evolution. I've embraced a couple of my partners, which I give a lot of credit to, in particular, Adam Cooper and Matt Welsh. Matt's my senior partner, and as well as Adam. And, and I embrace all that my team helps me with, including Steve and Kane,
So important.
Michelle and Sandra. And I have to give credit to that, or I couldn't even be on the podcast potentially right now, be out flying around, showing a few properties and what have you.
Right.
But I love creating opportunities, and I love creating synergies that I can pay forward. I will say this, in the business, and when it comes to time, focus on communication, focus on caring, and focus on consistency. And if you do that, you will find the balance between time and money start to become more in line with your vision. So I believe that it's important to honor yourself, because we weren't born to work 24/7. We were born to help, perhaps 24/7.
Ooh, I like that.
So find the difference between truly working and helping, and moderate that. If you got a difficult client that's driving you nuts and stressing you, sometimes you got to cut it loose. And, it doesn't mean the client is bad. It doesn't. You're not the right fit. And you got to swallow your ego. And running a team, you have to swallow your ego. You have to embrace other talents so that you can actually feed off of your strengths and hire and delegate for your weaknesses or areas where you need more support. And that is really critical.
When you look at the end of your day, after everything that you've built, how do you know it's been a successful day for you?
It's funny you mention that. For me, now, as I reflect over the last number of years, especially, it's a successful day when I can truly say this, and this is not a cliche.
Mm-hmm.
When I can look myself in the mirror and say, I truly helped somebody or gave back to somebody, and I also have learned something valuable that day, that's a day of success. And none of it has to do with money. Growth has nothing to do with money. Money is dependent on your growth.
Tom, I've asked that question 281 times on this show. There's not been a person who has used the word money when it comes to success at the end of a day. Moreover, the learning that we've had, is actually that most people, when they've got the right intentions, success is defined by what you just said of help.
Yeah.
Helping other people. Tom, any final words? Any words of wisdom? And look, I we could spend hours on this one because you've been just a ton of wisdom today, a ton of insights, and I truly am hoping that people will dig in and get to even know you better and understand you more, understand why you've achieved the levels of success, which you're very kind to share with us here today. So I thank you, sincerely for making the time to do that. Just before we sign off, any parting words? Where can people find you? And again, any just words of advice that people can leverage to build that mind share to get more market share?
In about under a minute, might be a minute and a half. I'll give you about 10 quick points.
Go for it.
No stories attached. The impact that you make on people and relationships are the memories that will shape your life. Number 2, I follow the principle of Kaizen. It's a Japanese philosophy, but it's ingrained in many cultures. It's just called different. Small incremental changes over time will lead to a compound or a very successful gain in the end. Okay? Continue to be yourself. Continue to learn and grow. That's essential. Growth starts outside of your comfort zone, and that's a big one because people don't want to change. I've used that concept over time. I've used with my team as well as in the Netherlands when I spoke. FEC. Focus. Symbolic of a goal. Execute. Initiative. Implementation. Follow-up. What happens thereafter? Otherwise, you have a dead goal that goes nowhere. You can't move a parked car. Focus on what the most important priorities are for you each day. We talked about 2 or 3 items and not letting the minutia get in the way. And continue to work toward the person that you aspire to be. That's a really key one. Find the work-life balance, because we talked about time and money. And the greatest currency you have is your time. So if I can leave you with something, never think everything else is more important. It's your time.
Thomas Bagogloo, everybody. The big T from the East Coast, the crawdaddy. Inspiring, my friend. Motivating, inspiring, educational, informational. Today, again, we really wanted to leverage that. And look, everybody tuned in, there's no secret sauce. There's no magic pill. But of course, so Dave, why'd you title it His Secret Recipe to Over 30 Years of Success? Well, because we were going to unearth what this guy has done. And Tom, you really, really, really did a fantastic job of that today, on what it takes to be successful. In today's business, in the business of old, it's the same business. You just got more tools available to you, right? But have the right head on your shoulders, have the right mindset for what it is that you're doing and how you're helping others, what you want in life out of, your life. Be focused on the right things, and the right things will happen. Tom, you did a fantastic job with this today. I can't thank you enough for joining us here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a privilege.
I look forward to seeing you again shortly, my friend.
Myself as well.
Thanks, you. Pal. Thank you. You're either listening to this on one of your favorite podcast platforms, or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And hey, while you're there, be sure to check out the details of our upcoming Mindshare Mastermind taking place here in Toronto, September 16th through the 18th. Check that out. There's limited spots. It is the event you know nothing about. So Dave, why would I ever go to something I know nothing about? Well, because you want to go next level. And even conversations we had today are very much about taking you to that next level. So make sure you check that out, mindshare101.com. And of course, while you're there, be sure to download our free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle so you can build more mindshare and get more market share. Of course, for all inquiries, just get in touch with us today. Don't forget to leave a review of the podcast, www.ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101, iTunes, Android, Spotify, whatever device you're using and platform you listen on. Go to this link, www.ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. We'd love if you take a quick moment, leave us a nice review, a big 5 stars. And if we haven't yet, let's connect on Facebook and TikTok at MindShare101, and on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. Taking a quick moment here just before we sign off to say a big thank you to Kits Keep in Touch Systems, REM Magazine, and OREA, the Ontario Real Estate Association. This has been another episode of the MindShare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.